All right, so now it's time for you to calculate the measures of center of each random variable. And when you're calculating the measures of center for each random variable, the measures of center are mean, median, and mode. Now, the mode you're going to have to calculate from one of your histograms. So you're going to want to choose one of the two histograms that you made for each random variable. Okay, so you're just going to be making, two arithmetic mode calculations, one for each random variable. So in total, you made four histograms. You're just choosing two of them, one from your first random variable and one from your second random variable. And you're going to use that to calculate your arithmetic mode. All right, so let's do that in the spreadsheet. So you're going to need to have your Google Sheets spreadsheet open. You're also going to need to have open the MyOpenMath problem that goes with it. You're going to be filling this in with your data, and you also need the text file of all your data as well. All right, so let's kind of go through all of this with all three of these things together. All right, so this I'm going to use histogram 2 as the histogram that I was going to use in my report to represent my speed random variable. So just here, I'm just going to type measures of center. Okay, and let me make this a little bit narrower. Okay, that looks fine. And under measures of center, we have the mean, the median, and we're going to calculate the arithmetic mode. Okay, and so I'm going to go ahead and select these and make them bold. So we need to calculate the mean, the median, and the mode. All right, let's flip back over to the MyOpenMath problem. And so the MyOpenMath problem um, is asking for two things. It's saying which spreadsheet software are you using? So we are using Google Sheets. And then put the name of your random variable. So for me, that is speed, and that's in miles per hour, like that. And then you can click submit. And if it likes what you did, it'll let you into the next part. Now, the next part is to paste in your data set. So I'm going to paste in the data for my speed random variable. So I'm going to open my text document here, and I'm going to do select all, copy, and then come over here. And on Windows, I'm going to right click and choose paste. And that's going to paste all of my data in. So now I can click submit. And then what it should do next is show all of your data. So it should tell you what the sample size is, 241. That's feedback for you. Um, it'll tell you the maximum number of decimal places. Now I know here I've got two decimal places, but what it's looking for is any second decimal place with a number other than 0. Okay, so that's why it's identifying one decimal place here in all this data. Then it says for question 3, your chosen histogram parameters. Okay, so previously you created two histograms for this random variable. The first histogram had a low number of classes, each so many wide. Your second histogram had a higher number of classes, each of them so wide. Between the two of them, choose one in particular. Enter the histogram parameters of your chosen histogram. So we need the starting point, the number of classes, and the class width. So here, I'm choosing histogram 2 to calculate my measures of center. So I need the starting point, the high number of classes, and the width for that. So for me, it's going to be 0, 16, and 10. So I'll go back to the MyOpenMath problem. So I had a starting point of 0.0. It wants one decimal place of accuracy. Number of classes was 16. And here it wants one decimal point of accuracy for me, and that's 10.0. Okay, so once I put that in, I can click Submit. There we go. Now it wants me to calculate the sample mean and the sample median. So use the functions for mean and median in Google Sheets. So the function in Google Sheets is going to be average for the mean, and it's median for the median. Okay. So let's come over here to our spreadsheet now and let's calculate that. So under the mean, I'm going to hit the equal sign and I'll start to type the word average. And you can see here's the average function. So I'll left click that. Okay, what it wants next is it wants all of the data in the random variable. So I'm going to come over here to the first row of my data. I'm going to left click once, and you'll notice it put A2, it put a reference to this cell. And I'm going to scroll down to the last one. And then I'm going to hold down the Shift key and left click there. And so you can see that it's selecting all the rows from A2 colon means everything in between to 242. And then I'm going to hit right parentheses and hit enter. Okay, and there's my mean. For median, I'm going to put equals, start typing the word median. Okay, and here's the function. So I'll left click that. And now it wants all the values again. So I'm going to select the first one, scroll down here to the last one, hold down Shift, left click. All right, so it's highlighted everything in between. I'll go in the formula bar, hit right parentheses and enter. And there's my median. All right, so let's go ahead and put that into the MyOpenMath problem. So it wants both for me to 1 decimal point of accuracy. So here I'm going to put 55.4, okay, because 55.35 is going to round up to 55.4. And the median was exactly 55. So here I'm going to put 55.0. Okay, click Submit. And let's scroll down. There we go. So the mean and the median were correct. So now we need to calculate the arithmetic mode. Okay, question 5, the arithmetic mode. So hopefully all of this looks familiar because this is formatted exactly the same as your homework. So here's the formula for the arithmetic mode. Here are all the variables that go into this formula. And then here is the answer for your arithmetic mode. Now we're going to go ahead and use Google Sheets to calculate that for us. So let's see here. What do we need? So let's come over here back to the spreadsheet. I'm going to move this histogram over just a little bit so I can kind of see this a little bit better. And I'm going to shrink this frequency field down a little bit. There we go. Okay. So to calculate the arithmetic mode, let me go ahead and come back to this. Okay, I need the lower class boundary for the mode, the modal class plus the width. So I'm just going to kind of put these variables in from left to right. So I need the lower class boundary of the modal class. I need the width. And then I need the frequency of the modal class. I need what are the other two that I need? Frequency of the preceding class and the frequency of the succeeding class. So FP and FS. And let me shrink these down a little bit so it will fit a little bit better. Something like that. All right. What did it do to my, this is weird. Okay, I don't understand what it's done. I'm gonna keep pressing forward. Okay. So I'll make those bold just so they stand out a little bit more. And, yeah, that'll be fun. All right. So, uh, gosh, I don't know why. Why did it cut that out? Never, didn't have any problems before. I'm having a problem now. Okay, I'm gonna move this histogram way out of the way. All right. Um, actually, let me move it up above. There we go. All right, so what's going to be our modal class? So it's going to be the class with the highest frequency. So it's this one here, which looks like it's going to have a frequency of 63. 63 should be 65. Okay. Why does that say 63? All right, let's keep going with this frequency here because I know this is correct. All right, so 65. So this is going to be the modal class. So I'm going to put frequency of the modal class like that. All right, and let me highlight this green. That's text. Let me fill that with a green color. There we go. All right, so what's the lower class boundary of the modal class? So lower class boundary is going to be 60, because here's my list of lower bounds, and here's the lower bound for the modal class, the class with the highest frequency of 65. So here I'm going to put 60. What was my width? My width was 10. So I'm going to go ahead and put 10 here. What was the frequency of the modal class? Well, that was 65. So I'm going to put that here. Now, FP and FS, that's the frequency of the preceding class and the succeeding class. So which class preceded this one? Which one was the one before? It's that one. And which one was the class that succeeded it, that was directly after? It was that one. So the frequency of the preceding class is 41. And then the frequency of the succeeding class is 22, like that. All right. So now we've got all of these variables. Now we need to calculate the arithmetic mode. So let's come back over to the MyOpenMath question. So we need the lower class boundary of the modal class plus the width. So let's go ahead and put that in first. So we need to put it in equals because we're putting in an equation. We want this value plus this value. Okay, let's come back over. Okay, so our width is going to be times this fraction. So I'm going to have to put parentheses around this fraction. And then I'm going to put a pair of parentheses for the numerator. And then I'm going to have a division sign. And then another pair of parentheses for the denominator. That'll make sure that the spreadsheet is calculating all of this stuff in the correct order. So I need outer parentheses, and then I need a pair of parentheses in the numerator divided by a pair of parentheses for the denominator. So I'm going to come back over here. I need to put a times, so that's an asterisk. Okay, I'm going to put a left and a right parentheses. So that's everything inside, that's the whole fraction. And then inside of this, I want to put parentheses, comma, parentheses, like that. All right, so now it may be getting a little hard to see what's going on here. So I'm going to move the cursor up here to our formula bar. And this is kind of what the formula bar is used for, is that once it gets a little hard to see everything, you've got a clear, unobstructed view of your formula up above. So here you can see I've got the two outer parentheses that kind of block off this fraction. And I've got these two parentheses for the numerator, these two parentheses for the denominator, and then I've got this division symbol separating the numerator from the denominator. Okay, so what do we have in the numerator? Let's take a look. We have the frequency of the modal class minus the frequency of the preceding class. So FMO minus FP. Okay, so I'm going to have FMO. I'm going to click here. So I've put the cursor here in the numerator inside the parentheses where the numerator is going to go. And I click FMO. So notice I put P23 and I'll put minus. Then I'm going to click FP like that. So for me, it put P23 in like a blue color and it put a blue box around it. And then here, when I did minus FP, it kind of made like a purplish color and it put a purplish border around this value that I clicked. Okay, so that's my numerator, FMO minus FP. Now I'm going to click in the denominator. So I've placed the cursor in between the pair of parentheses for the denominator. And let's see what we've got for that. Sorry, there we go. 2 times FMO minus FP. So let's do the 2 times FMO first. So with the cursor here in the denominator, we're going to have 2 asterisk. Then I'm going to click here on FMO again. Let's come back to the My Open Math question. That's minus FP minus FS. So it's going to be minus FP minus FS. All right, so this equation here that I've typed in is exactly the same as this equation here. So I'm going to go ahead and come back to my spreadsheet and I'm going to hit enter here and it's going to calculate the arithmetic mode that I started typing there. There we go. So I'll come back over here to this My Open Math question. Now we'll just go ahead and put in all of these fields, these values that we calculated. So notice how many decimal places it wants. For me, it wants 1 decimal place. And here it wants no decimal places. So lower class boundary for me, that's going to be 60.0. A width, let me see, it wants 1 decimal place. So width of 10. The frequency of the modal class, that was 65 for me. Frequency of the preceding class is 41. And the frequency of the succeeding class is 22. And then the arithmetic mode, for me, it wants rounded to 1 decimal place. So if I were to take 63.58 and round it to 1 decimal place, that's going to be 63.6. So I'm going to come over here and put 63.6. Now, if all of those are correct, I'm going to click Submit, scroll down, and there we go. So that all looks correct. So you can use these 3 measures of center in your report. Okay, this is what you needed to calculate. And once again, you only need to calculate the measures of center for both random variables. But when you calculate the arithmetic mode based off of a histogram, You want to choose only one histogram from each random variable. Okay. So let me know if you have any questions.